it is ironic that I wound up doing things that have a futuristic point of view, because I really have no interest whatsoever in the future, other than the fact that I have a child, an 8-year-old, and I'm concerned about the future. As far as sci-fi, I shouldn't say this. We're on this Sci-Fi channel. It's like, you know what? I've said this before. It's not that I'm not interested in sci-fi. I'm not interested in fi. I'm really not. I like documentary. I like biography. I like, if there's a good documentary on, that's what I watch. Fi, there's not much of it I like. Sci-fi, okay, whatever. But it's that aliens don't really interest me, because there aren't any. They don't exist. It's not real, That's just me. I'm delighted, by the way, however, that there's enough interest in it that there is a sci-fi channel, and that there are people who watch the stuff I do. As somebody who tries to create things, I do like to come from imagination. I mean, that's kind of my platform. I'm not a research guy. I have a friend who's a wonderful writer, a very celebrated writer, who is one of the great researchers of all time. I mean, if he's about to start something, if there's somewhere to go to research it, he devours the material. I'm not that at all. If I write or pretend to write, it is completely from my imagination.
Now, you're not talking about John Logan, are you?
I was talking about John Logan, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
on the series, I didn't write anything. As a matter of fact, I tried to, but I didn't try to actually write. I just tried to give notes on the character, which didn't go down very well. And for the first couple of years, I really worked hard at trying to do that. And it was so exhausting, and I was successful so rarely, that after a couple of years, I thought, I'm not going to do this anymore, and I'm just going to do whatever they write and try to interpret it as best I can, whether it makes sense to me or not. And it seemed to work out okay. I think I would have been happier giving my notes and having them well received, but they weren't. But by the same token, I have to say that the writers and producers never really gave me notes on my acting. They didn't come down and say, why did you play the scene that way? We're going to have to reshoot it. Could you do it a different way? They never did that. So eventually I got to the point where I thought, if they're going to respect me on that level, I have to respect them, and that's their position and that's mine, and it seemed to work out. Well, there were a lot of things I wanted to do. I wanted to cross the line in a lot of ways. Wanted to break the walls down, and I remember one time we were doing an episode where Picard, it was one of those episodes where he was kidnapped by the Borg. It was a 2-part episode. See, I don't remember the names of any of them, but because I haven't seen them. But I do remember this happening, and Worf and Data are beamed over to the Borg ship to try to bring him back. I think we do, actually. And I remember a Borg coming up behind me, and I turned with my phaser and blew the Borg away. And when we first shot it, the first take, we did 2 takes. The first take, the Borg was coming up behind me, and I just put the phaser behind me and shot without looking, and he fell away. It was a very cool looking shot. But the producers said, Data can't do that. He doesn't have eyes in the back of his head. I thought, well, why not? And why can't he sense it? Why doesn't he have hearing that's blah, blah, blah? Didn't win that one. So we went with the other take, which looked pretty cool, but it wasn't near as cool. But there were a lot of things that I wanted to do that, particularly with Data trying on the guises of humanity. And one episode I really wanted to do and really pitched hard, so we were shooting at Paramount Pictures, and Paramount is an amazing studio. It's a beautiful studio. It really looks and feels like a movie studio from the 20s and 30s and 40s. It's the only one, really, that still really feels like a movie studio instead of a factory. Paramount is still a movie studio. You walk down the row of the dressing room where Bing Crosby and Bob Hope and Alan Ladd, and those were their dressing rooms, and just has a great feel. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if the Enterprise crew had to beam back to, say, 1930 Hollywood, or they wound up there for some reason, and they were on the Paramount lot, and they had to disguise themselves as being in a Buck Rogers serial or something, or Flash Gordon, and that's how they were able to walk through without being identified. But the buildings are still the same. The old sound stages, the old buildings, the office buildings, they look exactly the same. And I just thought it'd be really fun, but they didn't think that was a good idea.
Quite a compliment to your acting ability, where they get this dry-witted, cantankerous, cat-hating, boisterous man to play a sexless android.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say sexless, would you? I'd say highly sexy, but unsexual.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I think the real question really to ask is, obviously you would have gone through this thought process of whether Data is an attentive, compassionate lover.
Yes.
Or just like...
Sort of on automatic.
Yeah, ready to kind of receive.
Well, he was on automatic, really, but automatic for Data was like, several levels. So I think it was... And really the question you have to ask is, what does the woman want, not what he's able to do. And I think he was, as he said, he was programmed in multiple techniques and a broad variety of pleasuring. And those, by the way, are the only words from the show I still remember. It's crazy. Let me just answer another question of yours briefly, which had to do with the writing of things. Where the series was concerned, as I said, I didn't write at all. But on Nemesis, I had a much larger role in the writing of the story. John Logan wrote the script, but John and Rick Berman and I wrote the story together. And really, my participation in that was almost primarily in action beats. I wasn't writing dialogue, I wasn't writing data, I wasn't writing really anything emotional, or John would call me. I mean, we had meetings where we were trying to push the story along, but really, John would call me to sort of say, how do we get them out of the what were they, Romulans, or I don't know what they were. What was Tom Hardy?
They were Remans.
Remans.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
Obviously.
Exactly. We were on the Reman ship, Picard and Data were, and he said, I don't know how to get them off. What should we do? And I said, well, what if they fly a ship out of the ship? Great, but that was what my contribution was, really in action beats. And I did have some participation in the death of Data. But other than that, really, John wrote the whole script, and Rick and I contributed story ideas.
How early in the process did you just say, Data must die? This is it for me?
It happened pretty early. I mean, there was talk about maybe Picard dies, but then we decided, really it would be better for it to be Data, because it will complete his arc. It will have reverberation that's on a more sort of psychological level of this person who wants so badly to be human creates the most human act of all, which is sacrifice for his friends, and so it seemed a natural, if we were going to lose one of us, it should be Data. Plus, we created B4 so that if possibly we should come back, which we really didn't think we were going to ever, we could manipulate that somehow to bring Data back. But
now, the character B4, it's been posted that you based that on George W. Bush.
Yes, exactly. Well, I grew up in Texas, so I had a lot of information and background on the Bushes, and the only difference is that B4 was just a little more intelligent, but that's it.